All Star Real Estate presents Realtor Rehab with April Osborne. Hey, welcome back to Realtor Rehab. It's episode 4, and I'm excited to report that all the priming is completely done. I took one day and I binge primed. I started about 8 o'clock in the morning, went till about 6 or 6:30 that night. I was exhausted, but it's all done. The inside of the cabinets, the outside of the cabinets, and both sides of the cabinet doors. Now, I did one side of the doors a few days prior, let them dry for about 48 hours, then I flipped them over. Speaking of flipping over, when you do your cabinet doors and you flip them to do the second side, take a sanding block and just run them around the edges of the doors and make sure it's a smooth transition from the prime to the wood that you're about to prime. This is the perfect time to clean up drips too. That way everything is smooth and you're starting with a clean surface on the next side. The other thing about priming is that I used an oil-based primer. I don't have a ton of priming experience, but everything I read said oil-based will soak into the wood much better and will keep the paint from chipping once you get into your everyday use over and over and over. So I was a little nervous. I've heard that it smells terrible. It wasn't so bad, which is great. It wasn't a pleasant smell, but it wasn't terrible, so that was good. The other thing is oil-based paint does not clean up with just soap and water, and I was a hot mess. I should have taken a picture and I didn't. I had it all over my hands, in my hair, from climbing into some of the cabinets to prime them. Like this cabinet is so deep, I had no choice but to literally get in there. So it was everywhere. But the good news is, that's why they made mineral spirits. I just took that and applied it to a paper towel and wiped my hands. I also had a little bit of splatter on my kitchen floor, which is a vinyl tile, and I used the mineral spirits and it came right up. So that was good too. Next on the agenda is to start slapping paint, and I am stoked about that. Finally, we get to see a little bit of fruit from our labor. So that will be in episode 5. Hey everybody, you are gonna wanna hold the thought on priming for just a second. As you could see in our video, we used a really good paintbrush to put on the primer, and it still left brush strokes. Now, most of the articles I read said that you didn't have to use a roller, that the paint that we're using should self-level, so to speak, and you shouldn't have brush marks. I confirmed that with a friend of ours. He and his wife did their cabinets, and they did not, and they used the same paint. They did not have brush marks. Well, we do. So I tried using the paint on one cabinet just to see if it would work out the way his and hers did, and it did not. So I grabbed from Lowe's or Home Depot, whichever one, a sanding block, a 220 grit sanding block, and on one cabinet I sanded it down as smooth as I could get it without removing the primer. And now I'm gonna go home tonight and try rolling on the paint and see if that makes a difference. So my other friend did her cabinets, and she bought this. It's the Wiz cabinet and door foam rollers. They're the 4-inch rollers. That's gonna be much easier, most likely, than the 6 inches to get into your cabinets. And then I just bought this little tray to use with my paint. So that way I'm not carrying a big old tray around, and that'll help make it a little easier on me. But I wanted to let you know now, before we even try it, that way you don't get knee deep in your primer and then be in the same situation we are, because it's been a little bit of a setback this week and I haven't been able to get near as much done. So stay tuned for next week's episode and find out how these foam rollers work out, and hopefully that will help you when you get ready for your project. For more information on this episode of Realtor Rehab, visit our website, www.allstarrealestatesc.com, and click on the blog section.